Do you ever wonder how great leaders in the community make things happen? When they encounter new, unexpected challenges like a pandemic, how do they continue to successfully make an impact? Welcome to That Sounds Terrific, the podcast that connects you with these amazing people. Get insights on what they do to meet their goals, find out how you can help them in their mission, and learn their methods so you can be more successful at what you do. Welcome to That Sounds Terrific with host Nick Koziel.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Joining me today is Jada Lehman. I'm really excited. She's principal of expense reduction analysts, and I am so happy to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Nick.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about, first of all, yourself and what you do. We talked about a week ago, and I was really excited about hearing more. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into this line of work?
Yes, so I actually have over 20 years of corporate experience, and I found an opportunity to help businesses find savings to be able to build their businesses and gain more profit. And it's something I've done my whole career, and now I get to help a bunch of businesses. So it's really an exciting opportunity for me.
That's great. And what led you to this part of your business? You said you've worked for, inside of a bunch of different corporations. Why did you take the leap to kind of come outside and kind of do some consulting work yourself?
Yes, I am finally in a position where I thought I wanted to figure out what my next move is in my career, and happened upon expense reduction analysts and was really excited about the team and the efficiencies and the process that was built with the company, and being able to be a part of something so big and different than what I had done in the past.
Well, that's cool. So what's so big and different about it? What did you enjoy most about the position that you have now?
Yeah, so let me tell you what we do, and I think
Sure.
that'll help. So we get to go into businesses that feel like they're working really hard to get revenue, but they're not seeing it in their bottom line, or they're not sure if their vendors are giving them the best price, and they're confused by the fees they're paying. And there's over 40 categories where we can help, and we typically find 10 to 30% savings that go straight to their bottom line. So some examples would be product pricing, inconsistencies or high freight costs, merchant card services, insurance. So there's just a lot of different ways that we can dig in and partner with businesses. And I feel like it's just such a great opportunity to help in ways that they might not have the time or resources on their end.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this before, and to help the listeners, from what I understand, you have a little bit of a unique way that you guys get paid and kind of reimbursed for your work. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so it is a consultancy, but what's unique about what we do is we don't get paid an hourly fee. We are a savings model, so it's self-funded. We share in the savings, and it's actual savings. And if we don't find savings, we actually get to tell a client that they're doing a really good job and they're in a good place with their numbers and their prices with their vendors, and move on to maybe another project that we can help them out with.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what I like about it is it really kind of, not that you wouldn't be honest, but it keeps you honest, right? So
Yes.
that you're working really hard not only to find savings, but to help your clients consistently. It's like sometimes when you get a consultant, they're in and they're out, right? And maybe they have some follow up and things like that, but they're already kind of, getting paid that set hourly fee. So I think that's a really cool way to kind of do stuff.
Yes, and to your point, we will help implement and we will monitor to make sure that the client is getting what the vendor said they were going to do as part of the process. So you're right; it's not an in and out. We don't leave and hope for the best. We help through the whole process.
Okay, that's really cool. And so, not to give away all your trade secrets, but what are some of the most typical things that you find that people or companies sort of overpay or maybe get overcharged on?
Yes. So I love that you asked that question because I feel like it's not just about dollars. It's not just about the product or service cost. We want to make sure you're getting the service that you want, the quality that you should get. But let me give you some examples. So say we're looking at the boxes that you're putting your product in. We're looking at the strength of the box too, to make sure you're not paying for too strong of a box for what your product needs, because you're going to pay extra for that. Or we're going to look at your freight. Potentially you're buying something and you're not filling your truck. And so you're getting it delivered twice a week instead of once a week. And you'll get a cheaper freight rate on that item if you fill the truck and get it delivered once a week instead
Mhm.
of more than once, right? So we want to look at the holistic approach and your process and make sure that we're helping you in other ways, not just negotiating or getting you a better price, but we also bring market research and analytics to the project to make sure that you aren't getting raised prices that you shouldn't be, or in the market we're in today, right? Prices are increasing everywhere. We have analysts in the background that have significant experience in every category we work in. They know what's going on, and they have the leverage then to have the conversations with vendors to make sure that, say something raised 5%, you're not getting 10% increases and those types of things. We want to make sure you're in line with where you should be for your business, as well as potentially bringing you some expertise and training as we go through the process.
Awesome. That's smart. And you made me think of like, uh like my customers experience with like Amazon when like they say, hey, if you order these things and put them in less packages and wait for them for an extra day, you're
Yes.
going to get savings. So we're going to pass that savings along to you. Is that kind of what you're talking about, or am I totally off base?
No, no, you're spot on. I mean, that is exactly right. We know freight so well because that is a very huge category for us that we get a lot of expertise and a lot of clients that we work with because it's so inconsistent. The prices are all over the place. So we want to make sure, based on lane management, the volume, and guidelines that they set up, that they're getting the best bang for their benefit, right? Whenever they're ordering products. So that is exactly right. And if you think about it, they're shipping products out too. So there's inbound and outbound.
Right.
We also will talk to our clients about their small package freight. So they're just those little one-offs that you think might not add up. And I love that when we do those projects, we'll train our clients how to use their portals, because sometimes you get just extra fees. And there's the fees part
Right.
that you don't even know you're getting because of the information you're putting in the system. So we want to make sure you understand and you correct things in the system as you go so that you don't pay those fees that you shouldn't be paying. It's just data and information that might be corrected.
Yeah, because I've worked with a lot of organizations, like large organizations, where you sort of have that central hub where you're purchasing supplies and items from basically your own organization, right? And then it gets delivered, and they only have like one shipping problem, like one shipping outward, and
Yes,
it's like $20 to ship. Like, so I'm gonna get some envelopes, and it's $20 to ship it. So I need to order a bunch
yes,
of other things. Why? Because I don't want to spend $20 on shippings, even if it's internally. So
yes.
yeah, I mean, I can think of probably a couple companies to refer you to. Um,
You're,
but the other thing I was thinking and I was wondering about is, so you talked a little bit about packaging. Is there like an organization that you work with to kind of like analyze those things? Because I know when I was at RIT, they have packaging science, and they typically would have different companies and organizations kind of like um, show them their packaging, and they review how to maybe to improve it. So what's the process behind that, like for your company?
that is a great example. As far as what we do is the expertise is in-house.
Mhm.
So we have such an amazing strength in our team as far as our experiences, and we do not have favorites in suppliers or vendors. We just know who they all are, right? So
Right.
we're working with them all the time. And I'll give you a quick story. I
Sure.
actually was talking to a prospect and they were bidding they were buying $200,000 worth of corrugate a year, which was the most they've ever bought. So they were very excited about, what they thought their pricing was, and that they were in line. And one of our analysts was in the meeting with us, and he said, I bid out $150 million of corrugate last year. He said, so I actually have the conversations constantly. I know where the market is. I know what's in line, and I know who all the vendors are. So I think that's a value that we bring. And then to your point, as far as then understanding what the strength is they need or the aesthetics they need on the box, those are all the conversations we also are very comfortable having with the vendors, so that we make sure the client actually knows all their options. Which leads me to another thing. We bring back options for our clients. We don't recommend. We will come back with several options for them to choose from. And sometimes they might just choose the incumbent. It might not be the best savings, but it's not a big change for their business. And that's okay. We will help them push that through and implement all those changes or not many changes, as long as we're going with what option they want to move forward with.
Do you find that you have companies, or maybe you even do this on their behalf, like where they have a particular supplier for something that they've been working with maybe for years, or they really like, or have some sort of established relationship with? Do you try to go through them to kind of like, say, hey, we can get it for this, So have you done that before?
So part of the very first conversations we're having with the client is who they're working with, what's working, what's not working, what other things do they wish they had that would give value to their business. Again, it's not just about the number, right? It's about the other values or things that are important. Something as simple as their terms might be very important to that business. Yes, and if they feel that they have a really good relationship and they like working with their incumbent vendor or supplier, that's something we want to know. And then we will definitely have the conversation with the incumbent if we see that the market might not be in line with where it should be. And we often find that that's just a nice simple step, is that they'll stay with the incumbent, but they'll get some extra values or a better price point at that point, and we can move forward, and they actually have more to put back in their business.
Yeah, often, like, I work with a lot of nonprofits, and mailing can be one of our biggest costs. And sometimes, we've been working with the same vendor for years and years. And it's never, I don't think it's anything like nefarious, but I think that sometimes they just get used to, this is what the fees are, right?
Yes.
And so it's good to have like a company like you, or someone like you come in and say, well, this company is doing this, this, and this, and that's saving paper or saving,
Yes.
money for both sides, right?
Right.
So I think that's great, and it's also great that you don't like kind of force people to change, because even in this day and age, with all the changes going on around us, people are often very afraid of changing or making any kind of change.
Yes.
So it's great that you sort of have the option to kind of maybe stay, and you have those difficult conversations with people for them.
Right. But you're spot on with that too. I mean, the benchmark is sometimes really all that's needed, right? Just to give that peace of mind that you're where you need to be and that nothing has fallen out of line, especially if you've been with the supplier for a really long time. Sometimes then things do tend to slide, and just giving you that peace of mind that you're right where you should be is some of the best conversations we have.
Right. So let me switch gears a little bit. I think that I want to know, I know with every consultant and every type of business that, people I talk to, you have like that niche area, where, you concentrate on this type of business or this type of customer. Do you have that niche area, and like, what is the kind of client that you're looking for?
Yes. Because we are focused on the categories, industries really are not at the forefront. That said, we tend to lean a little more towards industries we're comfortable with. I have background in manufacturing, so I definitely enjoy talking to manufacturing companies about what they're doing and what they're spending money on. But we definitely have a lot of success in nonprofit, healthcare, education. So some of those businesses too that really are stretched for funding and trying to find savings in any way they can to put more towards what they're working on. And so those are always really nice success stories for us as we move forward and get some savings for them to drive to their bottom line.
Yeah. Is your approach like different when it comes to each industry? So like you said, you mentioned nonprofit, I work for nonprofit.
Yes.
Like is there a particularly different approach that you need to take when working with a nonprofit versus manufacturing?
Actually, not much. I mean, really, to your point, we're looking at what they're spending money on, seeing what levels of spend they have, and where we can align is usually our first conversations, no matter what business you're in. I think the best part of the conversation, though, and where it's really fun, is talking about what they'll do with the money
Mhm.
when they get it, right? So there's a lot of different levels as far as how that conversation could go. Some of our businesses are trying to grow and they're trying to figure out how to get more money into their cash flow so that they can invest in their capital or whatever growth they're looking for in their business. Other ones are trying to retain employees. So it has been a long couple years, right, as far as
Right.
employees and companies having to do layoffs. So us being able to come in and help companies retain and not have to make those tough decisions are a huge win, right? As we're going down the path.
Mhm.
Another area is donations. Some of them just want to be able to contribute or put back, or they are a nonprofit that's trying to put back into their mission.
Mhm.
Those are always really great conversations. And that's where I feel like the value of what we bring is so important to businesses.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head with the nonprofits. It's very important to be able to show our donors and show our board and the people that are key players that, like, how much money goes into raising a dollar, to be able to pour more of the donations into the mission and what you're actually trying to accomplish with the nonprofit, the better. Um, and yeah, I think that it's great that your company helps also like save jobs, right? Especially in in the times that we're living, right? There was a lot of shifts, and for us to be able to work with someone like yourself to find ways to have savings and maybe save personnel and make them more efficient. That's great. Um,
Well, and to add on to that,
sure.
Nick, like adding into the fact that not only are we trying to save people, but people are doing a lot more right now. So time and resources is definitely a topic of conversation. So how often businesses can get to trying to figure out how to save money on their maybe even their more non-strategic spend that's not top of mind. That's a place where we can partner and we can actually bring them time and resources back into their business without having to hire more depth to be able to make sure that the focus is there.
Now, this might be sort of a dumb question, but like, do you get down into the point where you're talking more about like hybrid and remote employees and like, do they physically need that space, right? Because I know that's a huge thing with some of the topics I'm talking about in my career support group, like what does it really mean to be fully remote and hybrid, and where are companies really going to go? Are we going to see like the decline of all that real estate use, right?
Yes, so we actually do have HR specialists that are definitely going to talk about um, things you're talking. We don't touch payroll, that part of things, but we'll look at payroll services and we'll look at temp services and staffing and things like that as part of our HR categories. So yeah, you're right. I think that's a big topic in today's world as far as everyone trying to adjust a little bit to the changes that have happened in the past 2 years.
Right, being flexible, super important. And I don't know if you heard the term like war on talent, where it's harder and harder to find the right people, and sometimes you need that stopgap as a company or organization to have like temporary employees come in, and sometimes it's a really great way to find talent sort of semi internally, right? You have a temp person come in and all of a sudden, well, we got to hire this person full time, they're amazing, right?
Yes. Well, and hopefully we add a partnership to their supply chain where they might not need to fill the position right away
Right.
because we can partner with them and kind of do some of the extra work that they're all trying to juggle right now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense completely. So walk me through like, your typical client, initial conversation, and then kind of like what the steps are as you go forward.
Yes. So we actually, as I mentioned earlier, we start out by looking a little at their spend so we can see if it aligns with what we can bring and what our capabilities are. That
Mhm.
happens before we'd ever even partner with a company. We want to make sure there's a good fit and that we're all on the same page as to where we're going to go with this. Once we decide to work with a company, we will pick what projects make sense based on categories. And then at that point, we will go through and sit down with them to determine what their current state is, right?
Mhm.
We want to understand what they're doing, what they're spending money on. Then we will collect invoices so we even have a clearer picture as to what they're spending money on and how much things are costing. At that point, we will go to the market on their behalf to make sure that they have the right market pricing. And when we bring back those options, they'll decide what they want to do and where they want to move forward. We'll support in their implementation, and then we'll monitor to make sure they're getting as expected. After 2 years, and at that point too, 50% will go straight to their bottom line. And then after a typical 2-year period, they will enjoy 50 or 100% of the savings and will no longer be involved in it as they've learned everything and they've got everything in line where it needs to be.
Nice, nice. So do you find that you get a lot of your business from like referrals, or is it, a little bit of everything? Like how does that work?
Yes, and it is definitely a little bit of everything, but it is great whenever our clients refer us. That's such a great satisfaction, as most businesses are aware. When we come in and we prove ourselves and we do a really good job for someone, and then they're willing to hand us off to their friends, their colleagues, whoever makes sense. We definitely want to be that resource for businesses that you trust
Mhm.
and people you want to have there, you have that relationship, right? And you want them to have the success as well.
And is there a typical, business size that you look for, or does that not really matter? Like, how does that kind of work?
Yeah, so our sweet spot is typically 50 million to 150 million. That said, we can drift either way.
Mhm.
I kind of like that 20 million to 100 million. I like that smaller middle size company. I feel like the impact is great for them, and I think it's a lot of fun working with them
Mhm.
to help them get the wins and the successes that we can bring.
Cool, cool. What's your favorite thing about what you do?
I think putting money back into a business that someone is passionate about and working really hard to be successful in is
Mm.
so great. I think it's a struggle and time doesn't always get allocated to it. So being able to talk to and work with different businesses and hear what
Mhm.
they're working on and get them over potentially to that next level is awesome. Love it.
Yeah, you get that variety of like different organizations and different people.
Yes.
That's great. What's here's me. This might be a little bit of a stumper, but I guess what is the most unique thing that you've seen a company do with that savings, or special thing maybe?
So we had a client that was able to, we kind of call it as AP as a revenue source, where they're able to get rewards by switching from a checking to potentially a credit card payment.
Hmm.
And we worked with a big company that was able to fund their entire accounts payable department, which was, it was either 26 or 28 accounts payable people
Hmm.
with benefits with their rewards that they were getting in by switching over to this system.
Nice. So
Super cool.
they're giving back. That's awesome.
Yes. So, because in my background, I was in finance and accounting once, and you were always a cost stream. You were never revenue making, right?
Hmm.
So when you're able to pay your bill at least, so it doesn't seem like such a heavy bill for the company, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a lot of different, HR professionals and talked to them about like, being able to prove like the money that you're bringing in as an HR professional, and that's very
Yeah.
like hard to do, right?
Very difficult. Yes.
And so it's neat to have to meet you and talk to you about this, because it's right in line with some of the things that they're not necessarily complaining about, but advocating for, that the human resource is often overlooked, right? And how do you put like a price on that, and like what they're really bringing in on for the return of investment. So I think that's great that you're kind of outlining a lot of that too.
Yes.
Um,
And to your point, we actually can work with any department because they all have a piece of something that they're
mhm,
responsible for. The human resources is usually responsible for insurance, and there, different tools like that that are not typically even found in the supply chain, or they don't have responsibility for. So pretty much every department can feel an impact of us if we come in and do a bunch of projects for them.
cool, cool. So what do you think is maybe something that businesses that are first starting to work with you typically kind of misinterpret about your services? Like, what is something that you can tell them or tell the audience right now to say, this is something that people always think, but it is not necessarily true, and here's why?
Yes, I would say probably the biggest challenge is somebody internally feeling like this is going to make them look bad or make them not feel like they're doing a good job.
Mhm.
Um, I really, that stresses me out. It makes me feel badly because I just don't ever want that to be the perception. I want to be an arm and an extension, a partnership to help in ways that they might not have again, the time, the resources, the depth of the market of what's happening, because they're focused more on their strategic spend or so in a plastics company, right, you're focused on resin and how you're getting your resin prices in line and the freight to get it there. You're not paying as much attention to your electric or your boxes that you're putting it in and things like that, where I feel like we can bring such a depth and a strength to your business, and we will train you so that you have the expertise when we leave. So it's really kind of a cool ad that you can do. And again, we're funding ourselves, so it's not even for extra charges. So I definitely would like to tear down that thought that someone's might not look good or like they're doing a good job.
Mhm. No, that's an important point, because like, I go back to office space where, I have a meeting with the Bobs, right? I have five bosses that are telling me to do so it's about efficiency, not so much, proving that someone's not doing a good job. And
That's right.
a lot of times, like I've been there a bunch of times, more than I'd like to admit, where I'm in a meeting and I say, hey, we should be doing this. And, my boss and team are like, I don't know. And then they hire a consultant for like $15,000 and they say, hey, you should be doing this. And I'm like, I just said that,
Great
you know?
idea.
Yeah. And they're like, this is a great idea. Why weren't we doing this? So
Yes.
sometimes you need that extra organization to kind of come in. And again, I really like the way that um, you're sort of paid for this. It isn't about like getting, paid that flat fee, but here's all the savings you're going to get. We're going to get paid out of the savings. And I didn't even realize that after 2 years, you're just getting all the savings. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and I get to kind of design a team to bring in as well. So I get to help create a team of people that I'm bringing. It's not even one person that's coming in with all this expertise, right? We're bringing
right.
in expertise from a whole bunch of different areas and experiences to be a team for you, as well as, potentially the win, right? The success of the
Mhm.
savings.
Awesome. Awesome. So what's I sort of asked this question, but like what's one tip that you could give a company like out for free on how to like, improve a process?
So I would say the first thing would be just to kind of look at your history and where you're going and have the conversations with your suppliers or your vendors about where you've come from and where you're going to make sure that they're aware. That's sometimes a really easy way
Mhm.
to get a really thoughtful conversation as to what your pricing structure could be that potentially over years hasn't been adjusted or hasn't been thought of. So sometimes it's just having that conversation to be able to talk through what's going on or where you've come from, and building that relationship as well. So you're not just a name or a number on a piece of paper for them, but somebody who's really passionate about what you're doing and where you're going.
And then they call you and they say, okay, so what are the other vendors that I should be, talking to? So you get roped in, right? And then you can tell them, okay, that's great, the service is great, but here's who could be saving you a little bit more, right?
That's right. And oh wait, that market, that's still not in line with the market, or
Right.
it is.
Yeah.
Like, you've done a great job. It's really good and you're right where you should be.
So I think the first step is really just to connect with you and start talking about what are the possibilities. And so how would people connect with you? I mean, I'm sure we're going to put all that in the show notes, but what's the best way to get hold of Jada?
Yeah, so definitely I have my LinkedIn out there. I do have Calendly, so you can jump on my calendar. A 30-minute conversation is usually all we need to be able to say, does this even make sense for us to move forward? And then I'd love to do that complimentary assessment. Everything at that point too is complimentary, the 30 minutes and the assessment, for us to be able to see if this does make sense and if we align and this is a good fit, so that I could start getting my team in place for us to come in and help you.
Sounds terrific, Jada. So is there anything that I haven't asked that you definitely want to make sure our listeners know?
I don't think so. I think it was amazing to meet you, and I love everything you're doing, Nick. And
Well,
thank
thank
you
you.
for giving me a chance to talk about what I'm working on. And it's really, it's fun, it's exciting, and I love the success stories.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a listener and for spreading the word about That Sounds Terrific. And I definitely really enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for being on the show, Jada. I'm Nick Koziel, and with me was Jada Lehman.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you for joining us in another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Don't forget to check out the show notes and our website at thatsoundsterrific.com to find the contact information and the best ways to volunteer with the organizations that we feature. If you know someone that is doing terrific things and think they should be featured in a future episode, be sure to email us their name, contact info, and short description of what they're doing at thatsoundsterrific@gmail.com. If you like our show, give us a 5-star rating and give us some social media love by liking our Facebook page, That Sounds Terrific. Follow us on Twitter at Sounds Terrific 2 and Instagram at Sounds Terrific. We love hearing your feedback on how to make our show sound even more terrific. Till next time.